We did it. We actually did it. uh, Look, the first thing I want to say up top, before I get into the movie or, the plot or anything like that, I just want to say the best thing about this movie is that DC fans, we can actually, relax. Because for years, we've been telling our friends, telling people we meet that say, yeah, I just don't like DC. I just don't like Superman. I don't get it. I don't get it. And you have to, trying to explain to them, no. You don't know, you've only seen the Snyder movies. You haven't seen them yet. And now after this movie, all these people, so many of my friends and other people I've talked to over the years have been like, oh, I think I actually like DC now. And it's like, there's no I told you so about it for me. It's just a sigh of relief. It's just a pure finally, DC fans, we after years of trying to hold it up and be like, no, just I'm telling you, you like it, you do like it, you just haven't seen it yet, and now, finally, you've seen it, and I think that's, for me, that's the best part of this movie, is that it's reminding people, hey, this is what DC is, and you do like it, you just hadn't seen it yet. But now you have. Okay, I'm going to put my hoodie on because it's fucking cold. So, I want to start by setting up. I want to start by doing non-spoilers first, then I'll get into spoilers, as always. Just so that if you haven't seen this movie, you can still watch this video for part of it. I think this movie does have its problems. The plot and the pacing of it all is kind of messy. It definitely falls victim to the superhero movie that's trying to do too much syndrome, because it's trying to juggle all these different characters and all these stories that do connect in the end, but the first 30 minutes to an hour, depending on your mileage with not only DC but superhero movies, it's kind of going to determine how long it takes you to catch up. Because the problem with this movie is it feels like it starts 5 minutes too late. It feels like the movie got a 5-minute head start on us. Almost like you're showing up late to the movie. And I'll get into that in spoilers, but it can be tough. The first 30 minutes to an hour is going to be tough for you to get back on track with the movie, because it's trying to do so much that it just goes from the jump, and it can be pretty disorienting. It was disorienting for me to be like, holy fuck. I mean, by the time the third scene rolls around, I was saying to myself, slow down. You're James, you're going too fast. You gotta slow down, buddy. But other than that, I mean, I just loved it. I loved it. The characters are well written. I think the biggest strength of this movie is David Cornsweet as Superman. He clearly understands Superman. He clearly knows how to play the character. The biggest compliment I can give David Cornsweet is there's a scene in Superman 2 with Christopher Reeve that a lot of people point to as his best scene in that, his best acting as Superman. And it's a scene where he is with Lois Lane in a hotel room or something, and he's trying to explain to her that he's Superman. But she's in the bathroom, and he's in the living room area. And he switches from Clark Kent into Superman and back into Clark Kent, and you can see how his voice changes and his posture changes, and it's great. It's just this smooth transition into Superman and back into Clark Kent that perfectly illustrates how good of an actor Christopher Reeve is and how good he was in that role. And that scene is great, but David Cornsweet beat him. Because David Cornsweet is doing that for this whole movie. And I saw an interview with him before I saw the movie where he was talking about how him and James Gunn were having this idea of there's Clark Kent and there's Superman, but there's also this third character that's like a mix between the two. That's the real character. That's Clark Kent, Superman, and there's only like the only three people who ever see it are Ma and Pa Kent and Lois Lane. And I think they really took that and they ran with it. And throughout the whole movie, Corn Sweat just perfectly transitions in and out of Clark Kent into Superman, into that middle ground, back into Clark Kent. Back. He does it the whole movie, and I think it's great. It's. He's still not my favorite Superman, but that's okay because I wasn't expecting him to be, and that doesn't really mean that he's bad by any means. He's fantastic. My favorite is still, you know, DCAU Superman. But I could definitely see Corn Sweat being my favorite Superman down the line. I think just have fun with it. You know, it's a James Gunn movie, and the thing that I realized about it after the fact, after I sat with it for a day or two, was that this movie is not an origin story for Superman because it kind of relies on you knowing about Superman and knowing enough, like he's from Krypton, you know, yada yada yada. It's more so of a just kind of a setup for the DCU going forward. Um, and just kind of setting up a tone and a vibe and just kind of saying like there's going to be weird shit going on. This is DC. There's weird stuff. Just kind of go with it. Just kind of hang in there. It's going to be weird. Stick with it. If it's for you, great. If not, it's fine. We've got some other stuff for you. You know, we've got heart. We've got character. If you're here for that, we definitely have that. But it's just kind of establishing the balance between the weird comic book zaniness and the drama of it all. And I think that is a great place to start. And Superman is kind of like your tour guide for DC. And that also feels very accurate to, you know, DC as a whole. And just kind of introducing you to these characters in this world and, you know, just kind of saying, like, hey, come along for the ride. Like it's a ride. It really is a ride. I think, you know, this movie definitely could have leaned more into the drama and the story of Superman, but I think James Gunn is taking a bit of a gamble here. And as Cosmonaut Marcus said, it's kind of testing the audience of like, you've been watching superhero movies for, you know, 15, 20 years at this point. We don't need to cater to the formula anymore. He's kind of experimenting and testing the boundaries of the superhero movie formula, and I think it works and it doesn't in different areas. But I like that he's doing it, and I don't think it totally hurt the movie. And I think that even though it does have a lot going on, it doesn't get completely swallowed by the superhero overstuff syndrome. I think it does a good job of navigating through it, and it definitely could have done it better, but I think it did well enough. If you're thinking about going to see it, give it a shot. Give it a shot. It's a fun ride. It's not perfect, but I think you'll like it. I think it's what we need right now. We need Superman, and we need these kind of movies to come back. So I would say go support it. Don't expect this because it's not this. It's not this. I love this, but it ain't this. So yeah, go see it. Superman. Now we'll get into some spoilers. Let's get into some spoilers. So, I think what I meant before about it starting too late is it starts like 10 minutes too late for me because it does that opening text of whatever, 3 centuries ago and 3 years ago. That's all fine. But then when it gets to like 3 weeks ago in the Borania, whatever the country's name is, I don't remember. Um, I feel like we should have seen that. Like we needed to see the setup for that, and starting right after Superman's gotten his ass kicked for the first time feels odd. Like it that feels like where we should be after 15 minutes, not starting the movie there. Um, I don't know. I feel like making it 2 hours 30 minutes would have been fine. Personally, that's not that bad. But yeah, it's just it's off putting, and it takes a minute for you to get acclimated. And I think even for me, as someone who knows DC pretty well, it was kind of like jarring to start there. Of like, whoa, 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 whoa. We're starting. What's going on? It was just kind of like, all right. Like I said, most people that I've talked to, it seems like you do acclimate, and you do, to use a Dungeons and Dragons term, you do attune to the movie after a minute, and you know, we got there, but we could have started off better. And I think that's by far the biggest problem with this movie is it just starts wrong. It starts on the wrong foot. Now that did bug me. It did. I can't lie. It did bug me, and it's why I can't give it a perfect score. That's why I can't say it's like this, because it's just not the Batman. It's not perfect. It has its fair share of fundamental problems with the story structure. I think James Gunn got a little bit too used to writing TV after Peacemaker and Creature Commandos, because it does feel a little choppy, and it feels a little segmented, and I think it kind of holds the movie back. But at the same time, I kind of like that it goes to different places. I loved that whole pocket dimension prison escape sequence. That was great. That was probably my favorite sequence of the whole movie. Metamorpho's there. Metamorpho's weird, and he's kind of, awkward, which is a different interpretation of Metamorpho. I'm used to the one from Justice League, the animated series. Yeah, it's segmented. It's segmented, and it could have been better with that. But I don't think it's a major flaw. It's just something that could have been improved on. That's really my thing with this movie. Is just like, it's not that it's bad, and it's not that I didn't like it, because I did like it. I just, I can see where improvements could have been made. But it's, as I said up top, the most important part about this movie for me is that it's getting people into DC for the first time in their lives, or it's reminding them of what DC is, because the era of Snyderverse bullshit is over, and we need to move on from that. Yes, the Snyder bros are gonna fucking yap, and they're gonna want their fucking shit back, and we're just gonna kind of have to ignore them. We're just gonna have to ignore them. I'm not even mad with them anymore. I used, like, in high school, I hated those guys, but I've gotten to the point now where it's like, I'm just so tired of them. It's like, oh my god, bro, knock it off. Seriously. Where was I at? This is very accurate to DC. This is like an adrenaline hit for DC. I think the scene in this movie that perfectly encapsulates the vibe and the tone of this universe is the scene where Clark has come back to his apartment after his parents' message was translated. Lois comes in and tries to cheer him up and talk to him and all those things. And in the background is the Justice Gang is fighting, the thing that looked like Solaris. DC people are going to know what I'm talking about here. But I spent so long trying to figure out what the fuck that thing was. And of course, it was just... it was just Mr. Mxyzptlk. If I'm fucking up his name, I'm sorry. I've never been able to say it correctly. But yeah, he's like for the rookies, he's like an interdimensional imp who just fucks with people in DC. There's ways to beat him or whatever, but it was so funny to me that it was like you spend so long trying to figure out what is that thing, because I thought that was going to be the finale. I thought that was going to be the big fight at the end from the, you know, when the teaser came out and all that stuff. But no, it's not. It's just yeah, it's Mr. Pitlick. Fuck, what was I saying? Oh, but yeah, like it's gonna be, that's the vibe, that's the tone. There's gonna be weird shit happening in the background. That's gonna be there, but there's also gonna be heart, and there's gonna be some character work going on, and we're gonna find the balance between the two. Whereas Marvel is uh definitely leaning more towards realism. DC leans more into the fantastical comic book stuff. And I think that if you are a person who has watched Marvel movies and you like superhero movies, I think that's the lesson here, is that the difference between Marvel and DC is that Marvel is trying to do superhero stories in a more realistic way. Like Spider-Man is relatable. That's what makes him work. You are supposed to easily be able to put yourself in his shoes because he has problems like paying rent and having a job and looking for a job and work-life balance and all those things. And that's great. That's what makes Marvel work. But DC is not the same. DC is more fantastical and fun, and you're not supposed to be able to put yourself in the shoes of Superman. You're supposed to aspire to be like Superman. You want to try and be as good and as hopeful as Superman, be as optimistic as Superman. Even if you know you can't be, it's just the idea that it's like, I want to try to be as good as Superman. That's the point. It's more inspiring. DC is more inspiring than it is relatable, and Marvel is more relatable than it is inspiring. There's still a hint of both, but each side leans into the other. Um, so this movie understands that, and I think that for me is the best part about it, is that it knows that, and it leans into it. And so I'm so happy for that. So yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot. It wasn't perfect. I don't know that it totally lived up to my expectations, but that's okay. I had expectations, and at the same time I didn't. I kind of just wanted to go in and enjoy it for what it was, and I did do that. So yeah. To the newbies, welcome. Welcome. Dive in. Dive in. If this gets you excited for DC stuff going forward, or just DC in general, go explore. I mean, HBO Max has a bunch of DC projects if you want to watch movies or TV shows or whatever. Obviously, I would recommend Justice League the Animated Series and Justice League Unlimited. Those are easy to watch whenever you can stop watching and come back in anytime. It's not hard to pick back up, and it's going to give you a good taste of different characters from DC and the world, and it's a perfect introduction to DC as a whole, in my opinion, on top of being a great show in and of itself. Anything from the DC animated universe, I would recommend. Batman the Animated Series, Batman Beyond. I love Batman Beyond. Superman the Animated Series. Those are all great shows with great casts and great interpretations of these characters. Yeah, go watch that. Now, so the last thing I want to say is this. Is the last thing I want to say. I loved Supergirl in this movie. I had a feeling she was going to be in it. I didn't think she was going to have a big part, but I loved that she showed up drunk and she called Crypto and she just left. Because if you haven't read the comic, hold on, I have it. The movie. There's a Supergirl movie next year. That's the next movie, I believe. There's a Green Lantern show coming out also, but I don't remember when that is. I can't remember if that's before or after Supergirl. But her movie, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, is based off of this comic. And this comic is fucking amazing. It's amazing. I got it when I heard about the movie, and I read it, and I almost cried reading this comic. And I never cry from reading. Get the fuck out of here. Reading, I don't cry. The best comic I've ever read. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Second place is Spider-Man Blue, but still. So her movie is based off of this. If you're worried about her being a drunk, it's part of the story. Don't worry. Don't worry. That's all I'm gonna say. Don't worry. But get excited for that movie, because I'm telling you, it's got a shot. It's got a shot at beating this. And I think Millie Abcock is a great casting for that. When they initially had the final two picks, it was between Millie Abcock and what's that girl's name? She played Supergirl. She voiced Supergirl in the Tomorrowverse movies, which you may or may not know. And she was great in that. She was great in those. Meg Donnelly. Meg Donnelly she was the second pick for Supergirl in the DCU, and I think she's a great Supergirl. She was my pick at the time because I hadn't read the comic yet. But then they cast Millie Abcock, and I was like, I don't get like the warm Supergirl vibe from her. But then I read the comic, and I'm like, oh, that's why. Because Supergirl in this comic isn't the goody two-shoes, super warm and kind Supergirl that you might know or even think of. She's kind of a different... The thing I like about this interpretation of Supergirl is she's different than Clark. She has a lot of she has the same core values as Clark, but she's a little bit different. And I think those differences are the best parts about her character, and it highlights how she reacted to the destruction of Krypton. And I love that interpretation of the character. And I'm just so excited for that movie, because I'm telling you, dude, mark my words, that movie is going to be fucking great, because apparently the script is good. Jason Momoa is going to be Lobo. That's going to be awesome. Yeah. Get excited for that. Get excited for that. If this gets you excited for DC, I'm happy for you. I'm so happy I'm happy you're getting into it, because DC is awesome and it's so much fun. And, as I said, the best part about this movie is it's showing people, hey man, this is what DC is. And you're going to like it. You're going to like it. And I don't want to say I told you so, but...
Well, I did bloody tell you.
Woo!